Hey friends, many of you at some point will consider yourself too advanced for calisthenics. Now, bodyweight exercise is a great way for many people to get started because you can do it from home or pretty much anywhere, and you can adapt it to your fitness level as you get stronger. And for some exercises, you don't even need equipment. It's just you and the floor. So you don't have to change if you don't want to, but at some point, you may want to explore. So I'll cover 3 common modalities, 3 common roads you can take. And I'll also talk about which ones work the best for me. Now, some of you may have clicked on this video and thought, nobody's too advanced for calisthenics, and that is true, especially once we understand the scale of how advanced some people get at bodyweight exercise. But while it's not necessarily uncommon for people to master push-ups and pull-ups, there are many progressions way beyond that, and you can continue making progress for a long time. Not just in the sense of learning different skills, but also different ways to add resistance to different body parts. For example, if your goal is to work your triceps, you'll probably always weigh more than you'll need to work your triceps, and especially so if you ever want to branch into single arm movements. And while some people love that, I also understand that it bores some people. They just want to do different things, or they might say they want to do more. So we can start to branch into what some people would call gymnastics, but might be more accurately described as body mastery or just advanced calisthenics, since not everything involved is used in gymnastics. So for static skills, you can start with things like the elbow lever, the L-sit, flag work too, like the clutch flag and human flag. And as you get more advanced, you can pursue things like the planche, the Maltese, iron cross. And if you're worried about an upper limit on some of these skills, I wouldn't be, because there are some skills that have never been done before, only theorized, and there are some skills where very few people in history have ever done. So you're not gonna hit an upper limit anytime soon, similar to weights. Now that said, I also wouldn't get too discouraged because the rarity of these skills is also partially dependent on how many people know about them or care about them. So there's a lot of people who aren't even that much into fitness who at least know what the bench press looks like. They have some idea of what it is and some idea of probably of how to train for it. Whereas you take something like the planche, very impressive feat, very famous in calisthenics and gymnastics, but probably outside those circles, many people, maybe even just the average person, doesn't know what it is, much less how to train for it, or why they should care. So I'm not saying that things like the iron cross and the planche aren't impressive, because they clearly are. I'm saying not to get too discouraged that relatively few people can do these, because if the planche were as popular as, say, the bench press, then probably more people could planche. Plus, it very much is skill work. You probably won't get this without specifically training for it. So you can't just get so good at push-ups and pull-ups that you can planche or Maltese. But those are just static skills, and you can get into more plyometric skills, like jumps, for one thing. But if you want to get fancier, you can build up to things like flips and handsprings. You can also do things like learning to jump over a stick or a belt, in this case, like so. And the reverse if you want. And if you want, you can even jump over your own foot. And then there's more controlled dynamic movement, like the handstand push-up or the one-arm push-up. Or if you're too advanced for that, you can work towards a one-arm handstand push-up. That'd be more of a pure strength challenge, but if you want mobility challenges, you can work towards things like stand-to-stand bridges or dragon squats. I'm still practicing a lot of this stuff, by the way. Gotta polish. I guess this is how I polish. And next is weightlifting. That's right, I do have a barbell. Get boomed, haters. I just don't have many plates. Or many barbell-related haters, so I guess I was just talking to myself. Weightlifting is the default modality probably for most people in the world, and it's easy to see why. First of all, whether you use dumbbells or barbells, there's pretty much just infinite weight, kind of. But no matter how strong you get out of pattern, you can always find more weight to add. And you can specifically overload specific patterns. With calisthenics and other related modalities, you can still increase resistance to certain body parts, but you usually have to modify something. You turn it, you assist, you use one arm versus 2 arms. But with weights, you can really dial in and focus on a specific pattern. Not only that, but there are just certain body parts that are much easier to isolate, muscles that are easier to isolate and target with weights, which can be really important if you're a bodybuilder. But if you came from calisthenics, like you started doing bodyweight exercise and now you're moving into more of a straight weightlifting approach, you may wonder if you should retain some movements from calisthenics and how you should do that. And you have a few different options. You can warm up with them, you can cool down with them, and those are all good ideas. By the way, if you ever wonder why I use this specific weight, even though it's relatively light, it's because the color stands out really easily on camera. Something like this is the same weight, but a little bit harder to see sometimes, but this just really pops on the screen. So in the future, I might buy some hot pink weights. But regardless of how you want to incorporate calisthenics, I recommend keeping some of your more advanced movements and doing them at the end of your workout sometimes. So let's say you build up to a few one-leg squats and now you want to move on to weighted squats. I would still do some one-leg squats at the end of your workout, if nothing else but to retain the mobility you have in a relatively safe way. Like if you ever need to bail, you can just usually sit down. And the same thing with push-ups or one-arm push-ups after you do your bench presses. I know some people don't like this word and think of it as a buzzword, but bodyweight exercise really helps me keep some functional mobility. If nothing else but in the wrists. Like when I stopped doing push-ups as much, I recognized that I don't spend as much time on the ground with a flat palm. And as a result, I think I've gotten weaker in this position. If you don't use it, you don't lose it immediately, but you might lose it a little bit over time. And this is especially important for me because my version of weightlifting is just isometrics. So I just push or pull against something that I either can't move or choose not to move. And either way, you can just hold for time. It's not a very popular modality, but I really like it as a simple way to get a lot of force, more than I can with lifting, because you can always hold more than you can lift, with the downside that there is very little range of motion, or really no range of motion. And that's one of the reasons I combined that with calisthenics, which has more range of motion, but relatively fixed weight. Or I could just put on 5 pounds every time I wanted to move up. And speaking of that, if you ever want to invest in a weight belt, kind of like this, you can start doing some weighted calisthenics, with the benefit of being able to add on some weight and depth as you get stronger. So unless you're competing, I would try to get full-ish range of motion, but I wouldn't worry too much about perfect technique, in quotes. Even when you reduce the weight to something you can manage well, you still want to stay safe. If you're not used to a certain depth, then just approach with caution. I say this because injuries often happen in the deep range of motion, and people, especially those that are naturally strong, have a tendency to throw on more weight than they should the first time they try weighted calisthenics. And you can add on incremental weight as you get stronger. And the big three for calisthenics is probably the weighted dips, weighted pull-ups, and weighted back squats. So literally push, pull, legs. And there are many other exercises you can add on top of that. I guess we usually just think of them as squats or back squats, but they technically are weighted calisthenics. I guess a lot of things are. And I know I'm not adding a lot of weight to these, but some people can do hundreds of pounds. Absolutely incredible. So if you want to be inspired, you can go check those out. So those are 3 common paths you can choose if you feel like you have outgrown calisthenics. Possibly the 3 most common ones if someone started with bodyweight exercise. And the good news is that you can compete in all of them. So if you want just bodyweight mastery and advanced calisthenics, there's gymnastics, of course, but a lot of that is often more performance-based. I would go towards that direction if you think of your body kind of how skateboarders think of a skateboard. Not that it's only for show and only tricks, because you are building tremendous athleticism and strength and power. But the goal usually is the skill, the hold, or the trick. So it's performance-based, and a lot of the competitions are also judged like they're performance-based. If you want more raw strength for pushing and pulling, so to speak, then you can try traditional weightlifting or weighted calisthenics. Most people watching this are familiar with powerlifting, so there's going to be powerlifting competitions, and for weighted calisthenics, they'll be similar, largely numbers and form-based. And you can look up some competition examples for all of those just to see what they're like. But I just recommend to keep trying to make healthy progress in whatever you choose. Unless you've been training diligently for many, many years, you're probably nowhere near your genetic limit. Sometimes we just need a change and can try new things. That's the advice I would give my slightly younger self, because I wasted quite a bit of time pursuing some progressions when I probably could have made better overall progress on other progressions. And thank you so much for watching. This video has been really fun to make. Let me know if you want to see anything else in particular, anything that can help you. If you're interested in getting started with calisthenics and building up to somewhat advanced moves like one-arm push-ups, one-leg squats, and one-arm pull-ups, or just full push-ups and full pull-ups if you want to work on that first, then we have a free fitness routine on our website at hybridcalisthenics.com/routine. You can check it out. We also have a book version if you like books. And we have a beta app version for Android and iOS that you can check out. It'll walk you through the hybrid routine, help you track it, and help you get started. Oh, and if you heard popping noises, it's the 4th of July and I'm filming. I don't know how much it'll affect the audio, but that's why it's there. Have a beautiful day.